Now, listen, I find it completely funny how Ripple has such a strong community of haters who will continue to shit on the technology without even understanding what these established deals between Ripple and the banks, Ripple and these household name companies really are going to have an impact overall on the greater expansion of cryptocurrency in regards to not only massive adoption of cryptocurrencies, but the roadmap that we're seeing happening with Ripple right now is ultimately establishing a really big peak, historical point in cryptocurrency. So when we see things like Ripple and Apple, this definitely draws my attention. Now, I don't know how ignorant people are out there, and honestly, I think everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Of course, I'm doing exactly just that right here. I'm sharing my opinion. And I think people need to put their opinions out there a little bit more so that they can realize how dumb they are when they talk bad about Ripple. Because really, think about how many people have heard of Apple. Think about how many people have heard of cryptocurrency, and then put the two together, and it seems as if the establishment has a very similar idea, if you understand where I'm going with this. So when I talk about Ripple and you hear people talking about Ripple, and especially Ripple, and don't forget XRP, because the two have a future that's unmistakably hand in hand. And anybody who's going to deny that hasn't exactly done their research, and they might be falling victim to the fear, uncertainty, and doubt. But I won't get into that exactly right now. See, what I want to get into is the fact that very few times in the history of humanity have we seen something as unprecedented as what is happening now involving the top 100 cryptocurrencies. And of course, I think that something really historical is happening. And of course, if I look at it, seems like when I go down this line, there's something unprecedented happening with every single one. Now, the number 3 is, of course, no exception. So when we continue to move forward, when we think about the history of how these things have developed, I think that disregarding the establishment is really a crypto sin as we've continued to move forward, because of course all of us who've had our own interests in these technologies and the things that are going to be happening, I think that it's really important to be said that Ripple is really making some significant leaps and bounds forward. Now, I'm going to actually play a segment from a live stream that we did earlier, and that'll be the remainder of the content. So if you guys just wanted to hear the segment which speaks about Apple, that will actually be happening right away, so don't miss out. But all that being said, I hope that you guys have enjoyed the content, and of course it is interesting to be seeing how these things have been going, and I'd like to invite anybody who's interested in seeing the live streams. Definitely make sure that you're subscribed to the channel so that you can tune in and see these things happening, because we definitely have been developing a really great community in regards to these technologies. And I think paying attention to the team that's working with Ripple and for Ripple and in the interests of cryptocurrency in general, we're definitely at a very historical time when it comes to seeing how these technologies have been developing. And I'm very excited to be seeing the future of Ripple, and of course how any cryptocurrency in the top 100 is definitely due, because for those of us who've been involved with this for any amount of years, we've definitely seen Bitcoin come a long way. We've seen Ethereum come a long way, and I think that Ripple is definitely one of those technologies that's very hyper aware of what needs to be done, and I think they have a lot of room to develop as we continue to move forward. So yeah, I think Ripple is definitely one of the most interesting technologies that I've been paying attention to. Ripple XRP has really been one of the most interesting cryptocurrencies, as we've seen how Ripple is really leading the way when it comes to adoption on really a scale that's on par with the greater evolution of society and the way that we see people interacting in regards to how the evolution of this sort of space is owes a lot to the various different deals that are being struck in regards to Ripple and how they've made these various establishments in regards to the various household names. In particular, I would say that Apple is a really interesting one, and of course the various different banks that have taken an interest in Ripple. There's essentially a very interesting pattern that has been developing involving this crypto, and I would say that when we take a look at the list of cryptocurrencies on here, I would say this is pretty indicative of the level of supremacy in regards to how these technologies have been able to advance in the greater context of how we've been seeing this paradigm shift unfolding in regards to the overall context of how these things have been moving right along. So overall, I would say that I'm very interested in seeing what's going to be happening with Ripple XRP as we continue to see these things really happening in real time. And of course, I'm very interested in seeing how these various different developments have been implemented in regards to the greater context of how these things have been evolving. And of course, it is interesting to be seeing how these things. Yeah, I know there was no sound earlier in this video, but I think we've got that figured out by now. But of course, yeah, I mean, it is interesting to be paying attention to how Ripple has been evolving in real time in regards to how these things have been developing in the various different elements of this space that we've seen evolving right along with Ripple XRP. So I mean, I would definitely say that Ripple is one of those interesting cryptocurrencies that's had a lot of potential in store for it. And of course, moving right along, I would say that there's a lot of potential. I mean, just looking at the news regarding Ripple, there's always various different things that have been implemented in regards to deals that are being made regarding Ripple. And my interest in Ripple really peaked when I saw the various different things that have been happening with it lately. And of course, I think that moving along in the next span of years, we'll be starting to see a lot of various different interesting things happening involving Ripple. And of course, XRP along with it, of course, it's very hard to ignore the various different developments that have been happening within the realm of the establishment and the greater context of the potential that's in store for this technology. And of course, the greater context of cryptocurrencies at large, as we've been seeing these developments happening in real time. Certainly very excited to be seeing how Ripple XRP has been managing. And of course, I think there's a really great team that's been working on this technology as well. Of course, when we look at the overall market cap, we have 345 billion, and I think that a lot of people are pretty happy to see that things are finally moving relatively sideways rather than moving downwards. But of course, we were seeing things moving up, establishing this spike right here in the overall chart. So we were essentially moving through a really historical period, but of course, it seems like every thing that happens in cryptocurrency has been historic history in the making. Of course, we all remember the all-time highs of back in 2017, 2018, and then of course all these various different fluctuations that we've been seeing happening at large in regards to the greater context of cryptocurrencies and the developments that we've been seeing. And ultimately, when I look at this list of cryptocurrencies on here, I think that everything in the top 100 is due for some significant really attention in the greater context of society and all the things that we've been seeing happening involving this development. But of course, I think that it's really something to be said, the various different developments that are being made involving Ripple and the establishment and banks and so forth. A lot to be said, but I would say that Litecoin is pretty much trash. I would say that LitePay was a complete and total failure. Now, I'm not completely knocking Litecoin. I mean, I still am sort of a fan of Litecoin to a certain extent, but there's a lot of criticisms to be made because United States dollar, the euro, the yen, these are going to be the dominant currencies. The United States dollar, the euro, the yen. This is these really, they're going to be hard to replace. I know that we all like to dream and fantasize about the potential that's in store for cryptocurrencies, but currently, as far as my opinion goes, the only real usage for Litecoin is the fact that it's tied in with the greater context of the future of the overall crypto space. So of course it's subject to go up and down in accordance with what we've been seeing happening involving Bitcoin and the greater context of these technologies as we've been undergoing this paradigm shift. But all that being said, I would definitely say that it's really something to be said. You need to look to the technologies that are actually going to be doing something involving this, their own thing in regard, of course, for example, I would say Tron is an interesting one. I mean, I'm definitely interested in seeing how the decentralized media and how cryptocurrency is going to be leveraged in regards to the future of that, which ultimately is going to be the future of sites that provide the similar service as YouTube and Google and Facebook, as we've been seeing. I mean, you look at the news, you see all the things that have been happening regarding Facebook and the greater social media. Really, they were very dominant at it for a very specific period of time, but then what we've been seeing is these issues with data management and the greater aspects of the evolution of the technology. It definitely in need for an overhaul. So I would say that Tron is definitely in a position that's going to be able to really make a huge impact on that. And I think Ripple is definitely making moves in a similar fashion. So it is interesting to see how these things have been developing. Yeah, I mean, I would say there's definitely trolls in the cryptocurrency community. Yeah, Binance is a great service, and yeah, I would definitely say Tron and XRP are definitely really interesting technologies as we've been moving forward in the greater context of the overall. Yes, hello, Eric in the comments, how you doing? Yeah, we're basically just talking about the overall the future of these technologies and the future, but of course I think that the future of Stellar is definitely tied in with the future of Ripple. As you understand, Stellar is of course a fork off of Ripple. So when you consider the various different applications that Stellar has managed to associate itself in with the greater realms of the paradigm shift as it's happening involving the establishment in totality, I think that Stellar and Ripple are definitely have a significant marriage in the overall context of what we've been seeing. And yeah, it is interesting to be seeing all these things that have been happening. And yeah, remember, just for everybody out there, this video is for entertainment, educational purposes only. Remember, this video is basically just me saying my opinion. And remember, this is not financial advice. This video, like I said, is for educational purposes. So just remember, I'm not your dad. Just for the whole greater purposes of saying, this standard disclaimer for the benefit of the community. It's just interesting to see everybody's opinion. But of course, remember, I'm just sharing my opinion too. So I definitely say I'd like to hear everybody else's opinion. So make sure that you're active in the chat and all the different things that have been happening involving the community. But yeah, I mean, I think that my analysis of Ripple is definitely data driven, and I find that it's important to pay attention to the data aspects of these things as we've been seeing cryptocurrency developing. And I think that there's some really good there's a really good team developing in regards to Ripple, and I think as we continue to see things moving forward, we'll see a significant future in regards to these various different technologies that have been able to make those significant established connections within the greater establishment establishment and the banks and so forth, which is something that we've been seeing across the board. Stellar with their connection with credit cards and so forth, and all these various different variables coming together. And EOS, I think EOS has some significant potential in store for it. I would say that if you compare Ethereum to EOS in the greater context of things, I think EOS is overall undervalued, and in a lot of ways Ethereum, I hate to say it, but it might be undervalued as well. But then again, through my other paradigm of looking at it, it also, everything could be overvalued at this current point, because when you consider the actual purposes of what these things are doing and how they're going to be interacting with the real world, like I said, it is interesting to be paying attention to the technologies that are actually going to have a physical real world application in the greater context of how we're going to be seeing things evolving as things continue to move forward. So yeah, definitely in that regard, we're definitely going to be seeing a lot of expansions in regards to the overall potential. But of course, I'm important. I think that it's important to pay attention to how cryptocurrency has its roots in the overall expansion of how the internet is going to be playing a vital role in the future of the way that things are functioning. And of course, as the Internet of Things continues to come online, and as we continue to see all these various different developments with new people getting smartphones every single day, and overall in developing countries are really leveraging the potential that's made available by these technologies. I'm definitely looking forward to be seeing how these things are going to be evolving in real time. So overall, I definitely recommend that you guys do your research regarding these technologies. Definitely go and follow your favorite cryptocurrencies on their official Twitters, and of course, make sure that you follow this show. Our Crypto Clout actually has its own Twitter now, so if you guys are interested in connecting with us, you can do so very simply. And all that being said, I hope you guys have enjoyed this content. Hope you guys have found some value and in this content, and I will see you guys in the next video. Have a good one.